A woman can love you and still not respect you. Let that sink in. She can sleep with you, commit to you, build a life with you, and still, deep down, not see you as the man to follow. That's the part no one warns men about. Most men think respect comes automatically with time, effort, and loyalty. It doesn't. Respect is a ranking, and women reveal it through behavior, not words. There are 6 unmistakable things women only do for men they truly respect. They don't negotiate them, they don't fake them, and they don't give them out of kindness. If you've ever felt like her energy shifted, like your voice carries less weight than it used to, this isn't about fixing her mood. It's about understanding the 6 signals that tell you exactly where you stand before it's too late. Attraction is easy. It's emotional. It's reactive. Respect is rare, and it's earned on a completely different level. A woman can sleep with you. She can love you. She can stay in a relationship with you for years, and still not respect you. That's the part most men don't want to hear, because they confuse presence with position. Attraction is how she feels about you. Respect is how she ranks you. When attraction is high but respect is low, you don't become her partner. You become her emotional safety net, the man she leans on, vents to, confides in, but doesn't follow. You're there to support her feelings, not shape the direction. And that's where men get stuck. They think consistency, patience, and understanding will eventually earn authority. It doesn't. It earns comfort. Without respect, you're not leading the relationship. You're reacting inside it. You adjust. You explain. You accommodate. And slowly, without a single argument, your position drops. Here's the truth most men learn too late. A woman doesn't follow the man she likes. She follows the man she respects. And everything you're about to hear next flows from that one rule. Number 1, she listens and she actually adjusts. Most women are very good at talking. They can express emotions, explain feelings, unpack experiences for hours. But listening, real listening, that's selective. Here's the difference most men miss. A woman can hear you without taking you seriously. She can nod, agree, even apologize, and change nothing. That's not misunderstanding. That's your words landing with no weight. When a woman truly respects you, something subtle but powerful shifts. She doesn't interrupt. She doesn't rush to defend herself. She doesn't twist your point into a debate. She goes quiet, not cold, focused. Because in her mind, what you're saying isn't noise. It's guidance. You bring something up once, and it sticks. You express a boundary, and she adjusts without needing reminders. You correct a behavior, and you don't get resistance, excuses, or emotional gymnastics. Why? Because respect changes how her brain categorizes your voice. It moves you from the emotional input box into the directional authority box. Your words stop being opinions and start becoming reference points. Now look at the opposite scenario. If you constantly have to repeat yourself, if every concern turns into a long explanation, if she agrees in the moment but nothing ever changes, you're not leading. You're background noise, and no woman respects background noise. This is where a lot of good men lose their footing. They think patience will eventually translate into authority, so they soften their tone. They over-explain. They try to sound more understanding, more careful, more accommodating. All that does is teach her that your words don't require action. A woman doesn't adjust for a man she sees as equal. She adjusts for a man she sees as above the emotional chaos, someone whose perspective actually matters. And notice this. When respect is real, adjustment doesn't come with attitude. There's no sighing, no eye-rolling, no passive resistance. She doesn't feel diminished by aligning with you. She feels anchored. Because in her mind, ignoring you would feel like being out of sync with something solid. Here's the line every man needs to sit with. No woman respects a man she can ignore. If your words don't move her behavior, your position is already compromised. Number 2, she watches her mouth around you. If you want to know how a woman truly sees you, don't start with her actions. Start with her tone. Because language is never accidental. It's a ranking system. Sarcasm, slick comments, little jokes at your expense, backhanded remarks disguised as just playing. That's not personality. That's not humor. And it's definitely not comfort. That's power testing. When a woman doesn't respect a man, she speaks to him the way she speaks to people she feels above. She pushes, she pokes, she sees what she can get away with, not consciously, but instinctively. Every sarcastic comment is a quiet question. How much can I lower you without consequences? Now watch what happens when respect is present. That edge disappears. Not because she's afraid of you, but because her nervous system doesn't register you as someone she can casually run over. The filter turns on automatically. She chooses her words. She doesn't mock you in front of others. She doesn't take small verbal shots to feel bigger. And here's the part men misunderstand. She's not walking on eggshells. She's calibrating. Women don't speak recklessly to men they can't afford to disrespect. The same way you don't joke carelessly with someone whose authority you recognize, she doesn't casually diminish a man she sees as solid. Pay attention to patterns. Does she talk to you like one of her girlfriends? Does she tease you the same way she teases men she doesn't take seriously? Does she correct you publicly, challenge you sarcastically, or laugh at you instead of with you? Those aren't quirks. They're signals. A woman who respects you protects your position, especially with her words. She understands, even if she can't articulate it, that how she speaks to you shapes how she feels about you. Disrespect doesn't start with betrayal. It starts with tone. And once she gets comfortable lowering you verbally, the internal hierarchy is already set. This is why men who tolerate disrespectful language slowly lose authority. Every ignored comment teaches her that your boundaries are negotiable. Every forced laugh trains her nervous system to rank you lower. Here's the truth most men avoid. How she speaks to you is how she ranks you. If her mouth has no filter around you, it's because her respect already slipped or never existed in the first place. Number 3, she changes her behavior without the attitude. There's a difference most men don't catch at first. And by the time they do, the damage is already done. It's the difference between hearing you and adjusting for you. A woman can listen to your concern and still disrespect you. You know that moment. You bring something up calmly, clearly. And she responds with, "That's just how I am. You're being too sensitive." Every woman does that. That's not honesty. That's defense. When a woman doesn't respect a man, every request feels like an attack on her identity. She has to protect herself. She has to explain. She has to justify. And suddenly, a simple boundary turns into a full-blown negotiation. But when respect is real, the response looks very different. She doesn't argue. She doesn't dramatize it. She doesn't turn it into a referendum on her personality. She adjusts, quietly, not because she's afraid of losing you, but because being out of alignment with you feels wrong. In her internal world, your standards matter. Your expectations carry weight. So correction doesn't trigger her ego. It triggers calibration. This is what men misunderstand about leadership in relationships. Leadership doesn't require force. It requires position. When a woman sees you as a leader, adjusting her behavior doesn't feel like submission. It feels like order, like sinking herself to something stable. That's why there's no attitude attached to it. No size. No passive-aggressive compliance. No emotional tax afterward. She doesn't need convincing. She doesn't need follow-ups. She doesn't need long explanations about why it matters to you. She just does better. Now contrast that with the man who constantly has to manage her reactions. who walks on eggshells just to avoid conflict, who avoids bringing things up because it always turns into an argument. That man isn't leading. He's negotiating from below. And here's the hard line most men need to hear. If every correction turns into a fight, you're not leading. A woman who respects you doesn't challenge your standards. She aligns with them, because respect isn't loud, it's efficient. Number 4. She speaks about you with pride when you're not there. Respect reveals itself most clearly in your absence, not when you're sitting across from her, not when you're doing things for her, but when your name comes up and you're not in the room to hear it. This is where a lot of men get blindsided. A woman can be affectionate in private and still quietly diminish you in public. She might avoid mentioning you, downplay what you do, shrug when someone asks about you, or worse, justify being with you, as if she needs to explain her choice. That's not shyness. That's hesitation. When a woman respects a man, she doesn't hide him. She doesn't minimize him. She doesn't detach her identity from his presence. Her tone changes when she talks about you. There's weight behind it. She quotes you. She defends you. She references your perspective even when you're not there. And here's why this matters psychologically. Women are deeply aware of social positioning. Attaching themselves to a man, publicly, is a statement. It signals value, direction, and status. So they're selective. They don't put their name next to someone who lowers their perceived position. When she speaks about you with pride, it means she sees you as an extension of her standards. You're not just the man she sleeps with. You're the man she measures other men against. Now flip that. If she avoids talking about you, if she keeps your relationship vague, if she downplays your role in her life, that's not privacy. That's distance. It means, on some level, she hasn't fully aligned herself with you. And alignment is impossible without respect. This is why men who lack respect feel invisible outside the relationship. They exist in a private bubble, but not in her broader world. She keeps options open. She keeps narratives flexible. A woman who respects you doesn't do that. She stands on the choice she made. Here's the line men need to stop ignoring. If she hides you, she doesn't respect you. Respect makes a woman proud to be associated with you, not because of what you provide, but because of who you are. Number 5. She seeks your input before making major decisions. There's a quiet but decisive shift that happens when a woman truly respects a man. She stops acting first and starts checking in. Attraction makes her want your attention. Respect makes her want your direction. When a woman sees you as a man with sound judgment, she naturally brings you into her decision-making process. Not because she needs permission, but because your perspective carries authority in her mind. She asks what you think before reacting emotionally. She pauses before committing to something big. She wants to know how you see the situation. That's not dependence. That's recognition. This is where many men get confused and accidentally talk themselves out of their position. They say things like, "Just do whatever makes you happy," thinking it sounds supportive. What it actually does is remove their role from the equation. A woman doesn't seek input from a man she sees as optional. When she respects you, your opinion becomes a stabilizer. It grounds her. She feels safer making decisions when she's aligned with your judgment. That's influence, not control. Now look at the opposite pattern. She makes major moves without mentioning them. She informs you after the fact. She treats your reaction as an inconvenience instead of a consideration. That dynamic tells you everything. You're not part of her internal compass. You're just someone who needs to be notified. And that's a dangerous downgrade. Men often tolerate this because they don't want to seem insecure or controlling. But leadership isn't about force. It's about being included before the decision is made. A woman who respects you doesn't fear your perspective. She values it. She knows you see angles she might miss when emotions run high. And here's the distinction every man needs to understand. Being included is respect. Being informed is not. If she only tells you after everything is already set in motion, your role has already been reduced. Respect invites your voice into the process, not as a courtesy, but as a necessity. Number 6, she stops the drama and starts bringing you peace. Drama is not random. It's not just how women are. And it's definitely not a sign of passion. Drama is a power test. When a woman doesn't respect a man, she creates emotional friction to see how grounded he really is. She pulls away to provoke a reaction. She starts arguments over nothing. She stirs tension just to feel the upper hand, not maliciously, instinctively. Chaos gives her control when stability doesn't. But when a woman meets a man she genuinely respects, something fundamental changes. She calms down. Not because she's bored, not because she's losing interest, but because her nervous system no longer feels the need to challenge him. A man who is internally solid doesn't react emotionally to tests. He doesn't chase. He doesn't over-explain. He doesn't fight for dominance. And because he can't be shaken, there's nothing to gain from creating turbulence. That's when peace appears. She stops manufacturing problems. She stops pushing buttons. She stops trying to win. Instead, she starts contributing. She becomes softer, not weaker, cooperative, not submissive. She brings stability into your life because she senses that you are already stable without her. This is the moment many men misread. They think, she's less dramatic. Maybe she's losing interest. No, she's losing the need to test. A woman only fights for control when she doesn't trust the man next to her to hold it. Once she respects you, she relaxes into alignment. She doesn't want to compete with you. She wants to complement you. And that's the key distinction. She no longer wants to challenge you. She wants to support you. Here's the truth most men never connect. Peace is not what a woman gives the man she's comfortable with. Peace is what she gives the man she can't shake. If your presence quiets her chaos instead of feeding it, respect has already taken root. And when a woman brings you peace, it's because she stopped trying to take power from you and started trusting you with it. What these 6 behaviors have in common isn't technique. They're not tricks you perform. They're not things you demand. They're responses. Each one is a reaction to the same underlying reality: position. When a woman truly respects a man, she naturally aligns with him. She listens because his words matter. She watches her tone because his position is solid. She adjusts without attitude because his standards feel legitimate. She speaks about him with pride because being connected to him elevates her. She seeks his input because his judgment is trusted. She brings peace because there's no need to fight for control. None of this comes from asking for it. All of it comes from who you are being. That's the part most men try to skip. They want the behaviors without the foundation, the obedience without the authority, the alignment without the leadership. And when they don't get it, they assume something is wrong with women. It isn't. Women don't withhold respect to punish men. They respond to what they perceive. And perception is shaped by consistency, boundaries, self-command, and direction, not by overgiving or emotional labor. When respect is present, power struggles disappear. She stops negotiating the hierarchy. She stops testing limits. She settles into alignment because it feels right, not because she's forced. Here's the shift every man has to make. You don't ask for respect. You don't negotiate for it. You become the kind of man it attaches itself to. These 6 behaviors aren't goals. They're evidence. And if they're missing, the answer isn't to chase harder. It's to look honestly at the position you're holding. If there's one truth you need to walk away with, it's this. Women don't treat good men badly. They just don't follow men they don't respect. Most men never get clarity on that distinction. They assume effort equals authority. That loyalty should automatically earn leadership. And when it doesn't, they internalize the wrong lesson. They try harder, give more, explain themselves deeper. That's how men slowly erase their own position. If you didn't recognize yourself in those 6 behaviors, don't panic and don't blame her. A woman doesn't wake up one day deciding to downgrade a man. She responds to the role he's been holding all along. Respect doesn't come from chasing approval. It doesn't come from emotional availability without backbone. And it never comes from bargaining your standards away just to keep the peace. A man who is respected doesn't beg to be heard. He isn't afraid to be disagreed with, and he doesn't confuse being chosen with being followed. When you stop overgiving, stop explaining, stop reacting, something shifts. Not because you're trying to control her, but because you're finally controlling yourself. That's when respect has room to grow. So if this hit close to home, don't numb it. Use it. Subscribe if you're done being the man women get comfortable lowering. Comment if you've ever realized, too late, that your position slipped quietly. And share this with a man who's still being chosen, but never truly followed. Because the moment a woman truly respects you, she can't unsee it. And neither can you. Every man has asked himself this question in silence. Does she really love me? Or am I just wasting my time? It's the doubt that eats away at your confidence, the thought that keeps you up at night. And here's the truth. If you don't know the signs, you'll never have the answer. Women don't always speak their heart, but they always reveal it in what they do. That's why today, I'm going to give you the 12 things women only do for the men they truly love. By the end of this video, you'll know if her love is real or if you've been fooling yourself all along. You're here because deep down, you already sense something. Maybe she loves you, maybe she doesn't, but you want the truth. And trust me, you're not alone. Men everywhere face the same doubt. So before we dive deeper, subscribe, hit like, and drop a quick comment below. Have you ever felt unsure about her feelings? Write yes or no. Because what's coming next will either confirm your fear or give you the reassurance you've been waiting for. Number 1. She introduces you to her friends and family. When a woman truly loves a man, she doesn't hide him in the shadows. She wants the people who matter most in her life to know who you are. Think about it. If she's keeping you away from her family, if she avoids posting you on social occasions, if she never mentions your name in conversations with her closest circle, what does that really mean? It means she hasn't chosen you with pride. Love has no need for secrecy. When a woman loves you, she naturally wants to blend her world with yours. She doesn't feel embarrassed to say, "This is my man." Instead, she feels proud to stand beside you, because to her, you're not just someone she's dating, you're someone she's investing her emotions and her future into. Now, let me give it to you straight. If she keeps you hidden, you're not the main character in her story, you're just a placeholder, and that's dangerous. A woman who truly loves will bridge the gap between your world and hers. She'll invite you to meet her family, not just as a guest, but as someone who belongs. When a woman brings you into her inner circle, it's more than an introduction, it's a declaration. She's saying, "You're not temporary, you're part of my life." Number 2, she invests time and stays through the long haul. Every man needs to understand this. Time is the ultimate test of love. Anyone can play sweet for a few weeks, even a few months. But when challenges show up, when the excitement fades and real life begins, that's when you see who's really there for you. A woman who truly loves you doesn't vanish when things get inconvenient. She doesn't disappear the moment you stop entertaining her, or when life throws struggles at you. Instead, she stays. She shows up when you're sick, when you're broke, when you're doubting yourself. That's the kind of loyalty that can't be faked. Here's the truth. Women who are only in it for fun or convenience will cut ties once they get what they want. They'll leave you hanging, confused about what went wrong. But the woman who genuinely loves you doesn't measure the relationship by what she can extract from you. She measures it by what you can build together. The long haul is not glamorous. It's messy, it's unpredictable, and it requires sacrifice. And when a woman endures all of that with you, without flinching, it's because her love is anchored in something real. A woman who stays through the storms is not just with you, she has chosen you. And in love, that choice means everything. Number 3, she confides in you deeply. Pay attention here, because this is one of the clearest signs of real love. When a woman opens up her world to you, she isn't just talking, she's surrendering a part of herself that she doesn't show to anyone else. A woman in love doesn't just tell you about what she ate for lunch or how stressful her day was. She reveals her fears, her childhood scars, her dreams, and the insecurities she hides from the rest of the world. That level of honesty isn't casual, it's sacred. And if she chooses to share it with you, it means she sees you as more than a boyfriend. She sees you as a partner she can trust with her soul. Here's the reality. If she doesn't love you, she won't risk being vulnerable. She'll keep conversations shallow. She'll deflect when things get serious, and she'll never let you close enough to see the truth. Trust is expensive, and a woman only spends it on the man she loves. When she confides in you, she's not just sharing information, she's testing your ability to protect her heart. How you respond to her honesty determines whether she feels safe to keep building with you. If she gives you her deepest truths, understand this: you're not just in her life, you're inside her heart. Number 4, she prioritizes time with you over friends. A woman's schedule is the clearest reflection of her values. No matter how busy she is, no matter how many people demand her attention, a woman in love finds a way to make time for the man who matters most. This doesn't mean she abandons her friends or isolates herself from her circle. Balance is healthy, and you should never expect her to cut everyone else off. But notice the pattern. If you consistently come second to her social life, if you always have to fight for a place in her calendar, then understand this: she hasn't placed you at the center of her priorities. A woman who loves you will cancel plans when you truly need her. She'll choose to spend a quiet night with you instead of chasing constant excitement with others. Not because she's forced to, but because being with you brings her more fulfillment than being anywhere else. Men often ignore this detail, but it's critical. When she values your presence above everything else, she's showing you where her heart truly belongs. If, on the other hand, she constantly chooses the party, the friends, the distractions, then you're just another option, not her choice. Time is the most expensive gift she can give you. When she offers it freely, without hesitation, that's love in action. Number 5. She feels comfortable not being perfect around you. In the beginning of a relationship, most women put on their best face. Perfect makeup, polished words, flawless behavior. It's all part of the performance to impress. But love strips away the performance. When a woman loves you, she no longer feels the need to pretend. She lets you see her without the mask. She's not afraid for you to catch her on a bad day, in sweatpants with messy hair. She doesn't panic if her jokes fall flat, or if she reveals quirks that others might find strange. Around you, she breathes easier because she knows she doesn't have to earn your acceptance. It's already there. Here's the cold truth. If she's always on, if she never shows you her raw side, then she doesn't feel safe enough to be herself with you. And that means her heart hasn't chosen you completely. Perfection is exhausting, and no one can keep it up forever. When she loves you, she trusts you with the unpolished version of herself. She trusts that you'll still see her beauty beyond the presentation. Understand this: when a woman drops her guard, it isn't carelessness, it's intimacy. She's showing you her reality, not her performance. And if she's willing to be real with you, that's love, speaking louder than words ever could. Number 6, She stops entertaining other men. This is a line every man needs to pay attention to. Before she chose you, she may have had plenty of options. Men calling, texting, trying to take her out. But when a woman falls in love, those other voices fade into the background. She no longer needs the validation, the attention, or the thrill of knowing other men want her. Because in her mind, she has already found the one who matters. If she's still flirting, still keeping backup plans, still leaving the door open for other men to walk in, then hear me clearly. You are not her priority. You're just one of many. A woman in love doesn't juggle candidates. She commits. Some men fool themselves by ignoring the signs. They see the suspicious messages, the constant attention from strangers, and they pretend it's harmless. But love doesn't leave room for competition. If she's serious about you, she'll make it clear to the world and to herself that her energy belongs to one man, you. The truth is simple. When she stops entertaining other men, it's not just about exclusivity. It's about respect. She's saying, I've chosen you, and I don't need anyone else. That's not weakness. That's loyalty. And if you don't see that shift, you need to ask yourself if she's really chosen you at all. Number 7. She sees you in her future. A woman in love doesn't just think about the present moment. She envisions tomorrow, and you're standing right there beside her. Pay close attention to how she talks about the future. Does she include you in her plans, or are you always absent from the picture? When she loves you, she naturally imagines life with you in it. She'll talk about the kind of home she wants to live in, the trips she dreams of taking together, even the family she hopes to build. She doesn't speak in terms of me. She speaks in terms of we. That's not casual talk. That's her heart projecting commitment. On the other hand, if every conversation about the future excludes you, that's not an accident. It's a warning. She's keeping her options open because she doesn't see you as permanent. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll feel that absence. Here's the truth. Women don't fantasize about men they don't value. They don't invest their imagination in someone temporary. If she's painting a future with you, it's because she's already chosen to build her life around you. So listen carefully. If her future has space for you, it's not just a dream. It's her way of telling you, I want you in my forever. Number 8. She shares every detail of her life with you. When a woman loves you, you become the first person she thinks about, whether something good happens, something bad, or even something trivial. You're the one she wants to celebrate with, the one she wants to cry to, the one she wants to tell every random story to. This is not about oversharing for the sake of talking. It's about intimacy. When she loves you, her instinct is to weave you into the fabric of her daily life. Every detail she shares is her way of saying, I want you to be part of my world. It means she values your perspective, your reaction, your presence in even the smallest corners of her existence. Here's the sharp truth. If she keeps you out of her daily narrative, she hasn't let you all the way in. If you only get fragments, if she hides important parts of her day or her struggles, then you're not the man she trusts with her whole self. Pay attention, because this is how women bond. Love makes her want to connect with you from sunrise to midnight, and when you become her first call, her last message, and the constant thread running through her day, that's no accident. That's her heart choosing you again and again. Number 9, she looks past your flaws. Every man has weaknesses, bad habits, mistakes, insecurities. We all carry them. The question is not whether you're perfect, but whether she's willing to stay even after seeing the imperfections. When a woman truly loves you, she doesn't pretend your flaws don't exist. She sees them clearly, but she chooses to look beyond them. She doesn't excuse destructive behavior, but she has the patience to work through the rough edges with you. She believes in the man you are becoming, not just the man you are today. That belief is powerful. It gives you the drive to rise, to improve, to become someone better because she saw potential where others only saw problems. Here's the cold reality. If she doesn't love you, your flaws will be her exit door. The moment things get inconvenient, she'll use your shortcomings as a reason to walk away. Love, however, doesn't walk at the first sign of imperfection. Love leans in. Love stays when it's easier to leave. Understand this. Her patience with your flaws is not weakness, it's commitment. It's her way of saying, I know you're not perfect, but I still choose you. And in a world where people abandon each other for less, that kind of loyalty is rare. Number 10. She remembers the little things that matter to you. Love is not proven in grand gestures, it's revealed in the details. A woman who truly loves you pays attention, not just to the big events, but to the subtle preferences, the small remarks, the hidden details that most people overlook. She remembers the song you played on your worst day because it lifted your spirit. She remembers the way you take your coffee, the story behind your scar, or the exact date you achieved something important. These details may seem small to you, but to her, they are priceless. Why? Because they come from listening with intention, and listening is love in action. Here's the truth. A woman who doesn't love you won't store those details in her memory. She might nod, she might smile, but she won't carry it with her. If you constantly feel forgotten, it's because you were never truly prioritized. But when she recalls the little things, when she surprises you with her memory of what you thought was insignificant, she's sending a powerful message. I see you. I value you. I carry you with me. Never underestimate this. Love lives in the details, and when she remembers them, it means you've carved out a permanent place in her heart. Number 11. She proudly calls you her man. A woman who truly loves you doesn't hesitate to let the world know where she stands. She doesn't hide you behind vague labels like a friend or someone I know. She claims you openly, without fear, without hesitation. And that public acknowledgement matters more than most men realize. When she introduces you as her man, she's drawing a line. She's telling other men that her heart is spoken for, and she's signaling to her circle that you are more than temporary. This isn't just about words, it's about ownership of the relationship. Love isn't ashamed to be seen. But here's the cold truth. If she avoids putting a name to what you are, if she keeps you in the shadows while presenting herself as single to the world, you're not her chosen one. You're her option, her safety net, her convenience. And a man who ignores that reality will end up trapped in a one-sided fantasy. A woman in love doesn't just feel it in private, she confirms it in public. When she says, "This is my man," she's not making a casual remark, she's declaring her loyalty. And in a time where so many people fear commitment, a woman who proudly claims you is revealing just how deeply she's invested. Number 12. She compromises for the relationship. Love is not about one person always getting their way. It's about meeting in the middle. A woman who truly loves you will not stubbornly cling to her pride at the expense of your bond. She's willing to bend, to adjust, and to sacrifice small comforts if it means building something stronger with you. This doesn't mean she abandons her values. Real compromise never asks her to betray who she is at the core. But it does mean she's willing to shift her schedule, reconsider her habits, or even confront her fears, all because she believes the relationship is worth it. That's not weakness, it's strength. It's a sign that her love for you outweighs her desire to always be right. Here's the sharp truth. If she refuses to compromise on anything, then you're not building a partnership. You're stuck in a power struggle. And power struggles don't nurture love. They destroy it. But when a woman chooses to compromise, she's sending you a powerful message. She's saying, I care enough about us to change, to grow, and to put our future above my ego. That's what makes relationships last. Not perfection, but the willingness to adapt together. A woman who compromises for you has proven one thing beyond doubt. She's not just in love with the idea of being with you, she's in love with the reality of building with you. You've just walked through the 12 undeniable signs that reveal whether a woman truly loves you. These aren't abstract theories. They are behavioral truths, actions that speak louder than words. And if you're honest with yourself, you already know where your situation stands. Here's the reality. Love is not hidden. It doesn't make excuses. It doesn't keep you waiting in confusion. And it doesn't leave you second-guessing your worth. If she shows you these 12 signs, you don't have to wonder. You already have your answer. She's invested, she's chosen you, and she's showing it every single day through what she does, not just what she says. But if you notice the opposite, if she hides you, keeps her options open, avoids vulnerability, or refuses to compromise, you need to face the truth. You're not her priority. And the longer you ignore that, the more you risk losing your time, your energy, and your self-respect. This is your wake-up call. Don't chase illusions. Don't settle for being a placeholder in someone else's life. You deserve more than that. And if you've been blessed with a woman who demonstrates most of these signs, then honor that by being the man who matches her loyalty and commitment. Because real love is rare, and when you find it, you don't take it for granted. Now, here's what I want you to do. Take a hard look at your relationship through the lens of these 12 truths. If you see her in them, hold her close. If you don't, it's time to ask yourself why you're still there. And if this message hit you, don't just walk away and forget it. Subscribe right now, because every video here is another weapon for your mind. Tools to help you take back control, protect your heart, and never again settle for less than you deserve. Share this with another man who needs the truth. Leave your thoughts in the comments. And remember, the power in love belongs to the man who sees clearly. That's not bad luck. That's strategy. You've fallen into the quietest trap in modern dating, being the man she keeps on standby. But here's the twist. It's not her fault you're stuck there. It's yours, because you've been playing by rules that never favored you. If you've ever wondered why women chase one man but forget another, this is your wake-up call. In the next few minutes, I'll give you the 7 psychological steps that make a woman stop taking you for granted and start fighting for your attention. If you've ever been that man waiting for her text, wondering what changed, today is the day you stop waiting and start taking control. Before we move on, hit subscribe, like, and write one simple line in the comments. I'm done being an option. Say it out loud if you have to. That's your first step toward emotional reset. Because what comes next isn't theory. It's the start of your rebuild. And once you understand this first truth, everything about how you show up with women will start to shift. Number 1, read the room. If you've ever caught yourself waiting for her reply that never comes, replaying the same unanswered message on your phone, it's not bad luck. It's a pattern. You're being quietly downgraded. She's not saying it out loud, but every delay, every cancelled plan, every sorry, got busy is a silent signal. You're not the priority, you're the placeholder. When a woman's interest fades, she doesn't always leave. Sometimes she keeps you around just enough to feel wanted, without ever giving back the same energy. That's what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. It's when rewards are given inconsistently, just enough to keep you hooked, craving the next moment of affection. It's not love, it's emotional conditioning. The human brain reacts to uncertainty like a drug. Every time she disappears, then suddenly sends a "Hey stranger" text, dopamine spikes. You confuse that high with connection, when really it's dependency. You start chasing that rush, not her, but the illusion of what you thought she felt. And that's how good men stay stuck. Here's the truth most men don't want to face. She doesn't keep you around because she needs you. She keeps you around because she can. Because you haven't shown her that your absence costs something. You're available, predictable, and replaceable. The perfect emotional safety net. And let's be honest, you've probably told yourself she's just busy, or that she'll come around. That's not optimism, that's denial. Every time you excuse her behavior, you teach her it's acceptable. Every time you stay, you tell her you'll tolerate being plan B. Reading the room isn't about being bitter or playing hard to get, it's about clarity. It's the moment you stop negotiating your worth with someone who's already discounted it. So ask yourself, is she making space for you or just keeping you in storage? If she's treating you like a background character in her story, then it's time you stop auditioning for a lead role. Number 2, the law of reciprocity. In every connection, romantic, professional, or social, value only exists when energy flows both ways. The moment you start pouring more than you receive, the balance breaks and respect collapses. Most men don't realize it until it's too late. When you keep showing up for someone who doesn't reciprocate, you stop being desirable and start being convenient. Reciprocity isn't some poetic concept, it's behavioral economics. When she gives less and still gets your full attention, her brain registers one thing. Your effort has no price. She learns that she doesn't need to try. She can give you crumbs and still get a feast of validation in return. That's not attraction. That's conditioning her to undervalue you. Think about the last time you texted first, apologized first, adjusted your schedule first, all while she gave the bare minimum. That's not generosity. That's self-neglect, dressed as kindness. Every time you reach out first, you're rewarding low effort. Every time you accept the imbalance, you're teaching her how little it takes to keep you around. If love is a currency, stop trading gold for her breadcrumbs. Your attention, time, and emotional energy are assets, not donations. The more you give them away without a return, the faster they lose their worth. Here's what psychology says. People mirror behavior that benefits them. When you stop over-investing, one of two things will happen. She'll either step up to match your energy, or she'll drift away because the free supply is gone. Either way, you win. You regain clarity. Pulling back isn't about punishment, it's about recalibration. You're not withdrawing love, you're re-establishing value. When your availability stops being guaranteed, she's forced to re-evaluate what your presence actually means. That's the shift. Remember this truth. Every time you reward low effort, you're reinforcing the behavior that made you feel small in the first place. Reciprocity isn't about ego. It's about emotional economy. When both sides invest fairly, respect compounds. When one side overpays, connection dies in debt. So from now on, don't beg for balance. Create it. Number 3, you come first. Here's something most men never realize until they've already lost themselves. The moment you start orbiting around her, you begin to fade from her sight. A man who builds his world around a woman eventually becomes invisible in it. You stop being magnetic and start being manageable. And once you're manageable, you're forgettable. Women aren't drawn to men who chase them. They're drawn to men who chase purpose. There's a psychological principle behind it. Self-orbit attraction. When a man radiates direction, focus, and internal gravity, people naturally align around him. But when he gives up that center, when his emotional balance depends on her attention, the polarity collapses. You stop being a man she's intrigued by and start being one she controls. Think of it like this. She's not the sun and you're not a planet in her orbit. You are your own gravity. Every goal you chase, every boundary you set, every decision you make, those are the elements that create your field. And that field either pulls people in or repels those who don't belong there. You want her to notice you again. Don't text more. Don't prove harder. Build stronger. Invest in your health, your ambition, your mission. Not for her, but because those things remind you of who you are when you're not seeking approval. That energy, the quiet, unbothered certainty, is what creates attraction. It signals value without words. Women subconsciously read social proof. When they sense that your world is full, that you're fulfilled, respected, desired, they feel an instinctive pull. It's not manipulation. It's magnetism. The same way people gather around a fire, not because the fire asks them to, but because it burns on its own. So stop orbiting her. Reclaim your gravity. You were never meant to revolve around someone's moods or schedules. The moment you step back into your own axis, that's when she notices the space you've created and the silence that used to belong to her. Because here's the paradox of attraction. The second she realizes you're fulfilled without her, that's when she starts chasing your attention. Number 4, the novelty factor. Predictability kills desire, not instantly, but slowly, like oxygen leaving a room. When a woman already knows what you'll say, when you'll reply, and how you'll react, you stop being a person she's drawn to and start being a pattern she's memorized. And the human brain doesn't crave what it already understands. It craves surprise. Psychologists call it habituation. It means the more familiar a stimulus becomes, the weaker the emotional response. The same joke stops being funny. The same touch stops feeling electric. The same conversation stops being exciting. You're not boring. You've just become predictable. Here's the part most men don't get. She's not losing interest because you did something wrong. She's losing interest because she can see your next move before you make it. When every reply comes instantly, every invitation feels expected, and every action follows a script, there's no tension left to pull her in. You don't have to disappear or play games. What you need is pattern disruption. Create moments that make her pause. Moments where she can't quite read you. Take a few hours before replying. End a conversation on your own terms. Try something new, unexpected, and unannounced. Do it not to provoke her, but to remind yourself that your time and energy have rhythm, not permanence. A man who is easy to read is easy to forget, but a man who carries an element of mystery, not secrecy, but depth, activates a different part of her brain. Dopamine spikes when the outcome is uncertain. She starts checking your profile, rereading messages, replaying your tone in her head. You've stopped being a script and become a story again. Mystery isn't manipulation. It's magnetic tension. It's the subtle art of keeping her curious, keeping her invested. The more she wonders, the more she feels. And that curiosity fuels attraction far stronger than validation ever could. So never let her feel like she solved you. Be the man she's still trying to figure out, not the one she's already defined. Predictability makes her comfortable. Unpredictability makes her intrigued. And between comfort and curiosity, desire will always choose curiosity. Number 5. Be the prize. The more accessible something is, the less it's valued. That's not cynicism. That's psychology. Scarcity bias, a proven behavioral truth, states that people assign higher worth to what feels limited. So when your time, attention, and emotional energy are always available, they stop being meaningful. You become a constant, and constants are invisible. When a woman knows she can reach you anytime, she stops reaching with intention. When she knows you'll answer immediately, she stops crafting her words carefully. When she knows you'll always forgive, she stops fearing the loss. That's not confidence on her part. It's conditioning on yours. Being the prize doesn't mean acting superior. It means understanding that your value is determined by how selectively you share yourself. You don't need to announce it. You simply adjust your behavior. You reply when you actually have the time. You share less, not because you're hiding, but because you've learned the difference between intimacy and exposure. A treasure loses its value when it's left in the open. What's rare feels sacred. What's constant feels common. When you become emotionally scarce, when you stop broadcasting your availability, she begins to feel your absence. And the human brain reacts to absence with curiosity, even anxiety. That's loss aversion in motion. We feel the pain of losing something twice as strong as the pleasure of gaining it. So when she senses that your attention is no longer guaranteed, her instincts awaken. She replays your last conversation. She starts to wonder if someone else has your focus now. It's not about jealousy. It's about recalibration. She's realizing your presence had a weight, and she took it for granted. The less she knows about what's next, the more she'll want to find out. That's not playing games. That's allowing space for tension to breathe. You're not punishing her with silence. You're reminding her that your energy is earned, not entitled. When your time and attention become rare, her interest becomes real. Because attraction isn't built on abundance, it's built on anticipation. And when you finally give her your focus again, it won't feel casual. It'll feel like a reward. Number 6, draw the line. Respect doesn't come from what you tolerate. It comes from what you refuse to. Every relationship, whether romantic or not, is a negotiation of boundaries, the invisible lines that teach others how to treat you. When those lines blur, connection turns into convenience, and the person who refuses to set standards becomes the one everyone tests. Let's be clear. Boundaries aren't ultimatums. They're not threats, demands, or emotional walls. They're quiet declarations of self-worth. When you draw the line, you're not saying, "Don't cross me." You're saying, "This is the level of access my peace requires." It's not about control. It's about clarity. Take something simple. She cancels plans for the 3rd time. Most men respond emotionally. They argue, chase, or beg. But strength isn't in the reaction. It's in the restraint. Silence, distance, and consistency communicate far more than confrontation ever will. When your energy stops being reactive, your absence starts speaking louder than your words. Psychologists call it psychological reactance. When someone senses they're losing freedom, they instinctively desire what's slipping away. So when you withdraw calmly, not out of anger, but out of self-respect, she starts to feel that shift. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer waiting. You've drawn a line, and suddenly, she has to decide if she's willing to step back across it. A man without boundaries is like a door that never closes. Easy to enter, easier to leave. Every time you let someone cross your limits without consequence, you're not being kind. You're being complicit in your own neglect. Here's the truth most men never learn. Consistency builds credibility. When your boundaries stay firm, your presence starts to mean something again. People, including her, respect what they can't manipulate. So next time she pushes, don't explain your worth. Show it. Don't argue your standards. Enforce them quietly. The power isn't in telling her what you'll no longer accept. It's in showing her that you mean it. When she knows your standards, she'll rise to meet them or step aside. Either outcome protects your peace. And that's how boundaries stop being rules and start becoming respect. 7. Show her what she could lose. Every man wants to be wanted, but few understand the difference between being wanted and being needed. The first is temporary, based on attention, novelty, or charm. The second is deeper, built on the kind of value that can't be replicated once it's gone. Irreplaceability isn't about perfection, it's about presence. It's about becoming the man whose absence echoes louder than his words ever did. So how do you reach that point? By becoming whole, not dependent, not performative, but anchored. Irreplaceable men share 3 traits: emotional depth, stability, and vision. They don't chase connection. They create gravity. They bring clarity to chaos, calm to intensity, and purpose to uncertainty. That's what makes a woman pause before she walks away. Because deep down, she knows she may find someone new, but she won't find this. When you offer emotional depth, you give her safety. When you embody stability, you become her peace. And when you have vision, when you're building something greater than the relationship itself, you become her inspiration. Those three things form the foundation of masculine energy that can't be duplicated. Every woman remembers the man who made her feel safe and slightly scared to lose him. Not because he threatened to leave, but because his presence carried weight. He didn't need to prove his worth. He lived it. His silence spoke louder than any declaration. His focus made her realize she was part of something rare. You don't win her by proving you're the best. You win her by being the one she can't forget. The one who touched her life with certainty, not need. When you operate from abundance, not scarcity, you stop competing with other men entirely. You exist in a category of your own. And here's the paradox of power. The moment she realizes losing you would mean losing her balance, that's when you've become the priority. Because true influence doesn't come from chasing attention. It comes from embodying value so solid that attention chases you. That's the man she doesn't play games with. That's the man she rethinks everything for. And that's the man you're becoming. You started this video wondering why she treats you like an option. Why you feel like the man she calls when she's bored, but forgets when she's busy. Now you know the truth. It was never just about her choices. It was about your boundaries, your energy, and what you taught her to expect. Because in every relationship, spoken or not, you're teaching people how to value you. Every unanswered message you accept, every cancelled plan you forgive without consequence, every time you overextend to prove your worth, you write the script of how you'll be treated. And the good news? You can rewrite it anytime. You don't need to chase, convince, or negotiate for attention. You only need to remember this. You teach people how to value you by the way you value yourself. When you start showing up like a man who knows his worth, you won't have to demand respect. It will arrive uninvited. Look back at where you began, the guy who waited for her texts, who accepted uncertainty as affection. That man doesn't exist anymore. You've learned to read the room, balance reciprocity, and reclaim your gravity. You've discovered that mystery isn't manipulation, it's magnetic. You've drawn lines that protect your peace and built presence that commands attention. Now, you're not the guy she calls when she's bored. You're the man she can't stop thinking about. The one whose silence says more than his words ever could. The one whose absence feels heavier than his presence ever did. And remember this, when you know your worth, silence becomes your weapon, distance becomes your language, and scarcity becomes your power. You're not being cold, you're being clear. If this message hit you hard, it's because you needed to hear it. Don't just listen to it. Live it. Walk with it. Let it reshape the way you show up in every connection you have. Subscribe to this channel because here we don't chase approval. We study psychology, master energy, and reclaim emotional power. I'll see you in the next one. If you've ever felt like a woman slowly stopped respecting you and you couldn't explain when it started, this video is about you. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Women don't accidentally walk all over men. They only do it when a man never set boundaries early enough to stop it. In the first stages of dating, there are 5 boundaries that determine whether she sees you as a man she respects or a man she slowly takes for granted. Miss even one, and you'll spend months confused, overgiving, and wondering why the dynamic flipped. This isn't about being harsh. It's not about playing games. And it's definitely not about controlling women. It's about understanding the exact moments where men unknowingly give away leverage and how to stop doing that before attraction turns into tolerance. If you don't learn these 5 boundaries early, you won't just lose her respect. You'll lose yourself trying to get it back. Most dating advice teaches men how to react. This video teaches you how to position yourself so you don't have to react at all. The difference isn't confidence or charisma, it's structure. Boundaries create structure, and structure determines who leads the dynamic and who adapts to it. If you're ready to shift from guessing to understanding, like the video and subscribe now. Because once you see how these dynamics actually form, you stop chasing outcomes and start controlling your own position. And that shift begins with the very first boundary most men ignore. Let's break that open. Number 1. Never open financial access before she's earned it. Men confuse sharing with bonding. You think talking about money is just conversation. You think you're being transparent, relaxed, authentic. But that's not how it lands on the other side of the table. To a woman, early financial information is not intimacy. It's data. The moment you talk about your income, your investments, the cost of your car, the trips you're planning, something subtle but irreversible happens. You stop being a man she's discovering, and you start being a man she's measuring. Not emotionally, practically. This is what I call the provider audition. She hasn't chosen you yet. She hasn't committed. She hasn't invested. But you're already standing on stage, proving your usefulness. And the dangerous part is that you usually don't even notice it happening. You mention your salary casually. You joke about a bonus. You talk about how much you've saved this year. You think you're just making conversation. But in her mind, a quiet assessment begins. Stability, capacity, access. From that point on, attraction stops being emotional and starts becoming evaluative. Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. Once a woman starts evaluating your wallet, she stops feeling you. Curiosity turns into calculation. Tension turns into expectation. And no, she doesn't need to ask you for money for this shift to happen. All she has to do is observe how freely you expose it, how eager you are to signal that you can provide, how quickly you turn your financial life into proof of worth. Men do this because they were taught that providing equals value, that security equals desirability. But early on, provision doesn't create attraction. It replaces it. You're no longer the man she wants. You're the man she's seeing what she can get from. That's why this boundary matters so early. Because once the frame changes, you don't get it back. You can't talk your way out of being evaluated. You can't charm your way back into mystery. The moment she starts evaluating your wallet, attraction stops being emotional. It becomes transactional. When you step in too early and start solving her financial problems, something critical shifts, and it's not in your favor. You don't become her partner. You become her support system. That's the role downgrade most men never see coming. The moment you say, "I got you," before there's commitment, you silently volunteer for responsibility without authority. You give provision without position. And once that happens, the dynamic hardens. She may appreciate you, but appreciation is not desire. Gratitude is not attraction. This is where the financial tests begin. They're subtle. She mentions how tight things have been lately. A bill she's stressed about. A car issue that's expensive to fix. She's not asking outright. She's watching. She's watching how quickly you move. She's watching if you feel compelled to rescue. She's watching whether your boundaries collapse the moment pressure appears. Most men fail here because they confuse generosity with leadership. They rush in, thinking it proves value. In reality, it proves predictability. And predictable men are easy to place into utility roles. The correct boundary doesn't require speeches or defensiveness. You don't justify. You don't over-explain. You don't apologize. You stay calm. You stay grounded. You close the door without slamming it. Something simple, supportive, but firm. No offer, no guilt, no entanglement. And here's the part that surprises men. A woman who is genuinely interested will respect this immediately. Not because she's testing you less, but because she feels safer with a man who protects his structure. A woman with unclear intentions will feel irritated. She may pull back. She may lose interest. That's not a loss. That's filtration. This boundary doesn't push women away. It filters out the ones who were never there for you, only for what you could provide. Leadership begins where access is controlled. Number 2, never tolerate disrespect, especially when it's subtle. Most men think disrespect looks loud, raised voices, insults, obvious hostility. That's why they miss it when it actually matters. Because real disrespect doesn't announce itself. It sneaks in quietly and waits to see if you'll stop it. It shows up when she interrupts you mid-sentence and keeps talking. When she makes a passive joke at your expense and follows it with, "Relax, I'm just teasing." When she casually compares you to her ex. When she ignores your messages for hours but expects instant replies from you. None of these moments feel big enough to confront. And that's exactly why they work. From a psychological standpoint, this isn't cruelty, it's evaluation. She's asking one silent question. Can I get away with this? Women test boundaries the same way water tests cracks. Slowly, incrementally. One small push at a time. If nothing pushes back, the pressure increases. Here's a scenario most men recognize but rarely address. You're out with her and a few friends. Everyone's laughing, talking. Then someone asks how things are going between you two. She smirks and says something like, "He's fine," when he's not being clueless. Her friends laugh. She laughs too. You smile. You tell yourself it's harmless, that she didn't mean it like that. But something just happened. She lowered your status in public. She used you as a moment of entertainment. And more importantly, she watched what you did next. Disrespect tests aren't about the comment. They're about your response. Or lack of one. When you let it slide, you're not being easygoing. You're signaling that your self-respect is negotiable. That comfort matters more to you than boundaries. And once a woman realizes she can step over you without consequence, she will. Not because she's malicious, but because you showed her the line doesn't exist. Silence is not composure. Silence is consent. That's the mistake men make when they convince themselves that staying quiet makes them look calm, mature, unbothered. In reality, what you're communicating is much simpler and much more damaging. You're telling her that this behavior is allowed. When you don't respond to subtle disrespect, you don't freeze the moment. You set a precedent, and precedents compound. One small pass turns into another, then another, until the dynamic has shifted so far that fixing it feels impossible. Here's the chain reaction most men never anticipate. When she disrespects you publicly and you let it slide, her friends notice. They don't see you as easygoing. They see you as the man who doesn't stand up for himself. Their perception changes first, then hers follows. Because once a woman sees that you'll tolerate being diminished in front of others, she learns she can do it privately too. The tone shifts, the effort drops, the attraction erodes. Not overnight, but permanently. High-value men don't respond to disrespect with explosions or sarcasm. They don't embarrass her back. They don't turn it into drama. They respond immediately, calmly, directly. One short sentence, no edge, no explanation, no emotional charge, just a clear line drawn in the sand. That response does something powerful. It resets the frame. It tells her, and everyone watching, that you respect yourself enough to stop the moment it crosses a line. This isn't about controlling her behavior. It's about enforcing your standards. Because respect is not negotiated through patience. It's not earned by endurance. And it's not preserved by silence. Respect is enforced. Number 3, never make your time freely available just because you like her. This is where most men sabotage themselves before the relationship even has a chance to form. You think availability shows interest. You think saying yes quickly proves enthusiasm. You think rearranging your schedule makes you look invested. From her side, it looks very different. When a man is always available, it doesn't signal desire. It signals a lack of structure. And women don't evaluate men in isolation. They evaluate the life that surrounds him. Here's the pattern. You meet a woman you're excited about. The chemistry feels good. The attention feels promising. And because you don't want to miss your opportunity, you start doing something subtle but destructive. You cancel plans. You move commitments. You stay flexible, just in case, she texts. Dinner with friends disappears. Gym sessions get skipped. Your schedule becomes reactive instead of intentional. Not because you're irresponsible, but because you're afraid of losing momentum. That fear is what she feels. From a psychological perspective, a woman isn't just asking, "Does he like me?" She's asking, "Does this man have a life that can hold me without collapsing?" When your time becomes an open buffet, she doesn't feel chosen. She feels prioritized at the expense of everything else. And paradoxically, that lowers attraction. Men believe scarcity pushes women away. In reality, the absence of structure pushes them away faster. A man who drops everything the moment she appears doesn't look committed. He looks unanchored. And women don't trust men who have nothing anchoring them. This boundary isn't about playing hard to get. It's about protecting the foundation of your life, because when your time loses value, you do too. A man who treats his time like currency is always in demand. Not because he's unavailable, not because he's playing games, but because his life already has direction before she ever steps into it. When you protect your schedule, something powerful happens in her mind. She stops seeing you as an option she can summon and starts seeing you as a man she has to meet halfway. Time creates anticipation when it's not on demand. That's the part most men misunderstand. They think saying no kills momentum. In reality, it sharpens it. When you don't jump every time she reaches out, you signal self-control. And self-control is one of the strongest indicators of maturity. Here's what this looks like in real life. She texts late. She wants to see you spontaneously. But you have an early morning, a workout, a commitment you already made. The low-value move is to abandon your plans and rush over, hoping it proves interest. The grounded move is simple. Calm. No explanation spiral. You acknowledge her, but you don't rearrange your life to accommodate an impulse. That response does two things at once. It shows that your time matters. And it makes the time you do give her feel intentional, not convenient. There's an important distinction here. Being busy isn't attractive. Purpose is. A man with purpose doesn't need to fake scarcity. His schedule reflects priorities. His life has momentum, and women feel that difference immediately. When your time is protected, attraction has space to grow. When your time is unlimited, attraction suffocates. You don't win by being constantly present. You win by being consistently grounded. Number 4, never become her emotional dumping ground before she commits. This is one of the most seductive traps men fall into because it disguises itself as connection. She opens up early, talks about her ex, the trauma, the chaos, family drama, how every man before you hurt her. She cries on the phone, tells you she's never felt this understood. And you think, this must mean something. It feels intimate. It feels special. It feels like you're different. But emotional dumping is not intimacy. It's recruitment. What's actually happening is simple. She's testing how much emotional labor you're willing to carry before she gives you anything real in return. And most men volunteer without realizing the cost. You listen for hours. You reassure. You stay up late calming her down. You give advice. You absorb her emotional weight. You become steady, reliable, safe. And slowly, quietly, the frame shifts. You're no longer the man she desires. You're the man she stabilizes herself with. Here's the part that hurts the most. Men mistake emotional access for emotional bonding. They think, she trusts me. What they don't see is that trust without investment doesn't create attraction. It creates utility. She leans on you, then turns around and gives her excitement, her curiosity, her unpredictability to someone else. Not because you did something wrong, but because you stepped into the role of therapist instead of partner. Masculine polarity dies the moment you become her emotional container too early. Mystery fades, tension dissolves, desire flattens, and you can't argue your way out of that position. Once you're emotionally categorized as the safe one, it sticks. This boundary isn't about being cold, it's about pacing intimacy. Because when you carry her emotional weight before she chooses you, you're giving away your strongest leverage. Emotional closeness is powerful, but only when it's mutual, only when it's earned. Emotional intimacy is currency, and like any currency, it loses value when it's handed out without investment. Here's the distinction most men never learn. You can be present without being responsible. You can listen without carrying. You can care without collapsing into her emotional world. The mistake isn't empathy. The mistake is overextension. When you rush to absorb her pain, fix her wounds, and stabilize her emotions before there's commitment, you reverse the natural flow of bonding. She doesn't grow closer to the man who carries her. She grows closer to the man she invests in. That's how emotional attachment actually forms. Healthy emotional pacing looks different. You listen, you acknowledge, you stay grounded. But you don't dive into problem-solving mode. You don't become the late-night crisis line. You don't let her emotional storms dictate your availability or identity. This boundary protects masculine polarity. Polarity exists when there's tension, space, and mutual effort. It dies when one person becomes the emotional anchor while the other drifts freely. Men often think pulling back emotionally makes them seem uncaring. In reality, it makes the connection cleaner. It invites reciprocity. It gives her the opportunity to step forward emotionally instead of leaning back into you. And that's the key shift. A woman bonds with the man she invests in emotionally, not the one who carries her emotional weight for free. When she has to show up, when she has to contribute, when she has to regulate herself, attraction deepens naturally. This boundary doesn't block intimacy. It preserves it. Because intimacy that isn't earned doesn't build desire. It builds dependence. And dependence is the opposite of attraction. Number 5. Never panic when she pulls back. This is the moment where most men undo everything they did right before. Things were good. The energy was there. The connection felt mutual. Then something shifts. Her replies slow down. The warmth fades. The effort drops. And instead of staying grounded, you panic. That panic is instinctive. You feel the distance and assume something is wrong. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe you said something wrong. Maybe there's someone else. And without realizing it, you start doing the one thing guaranteed to kill attraction. You try harder while she does less. It usually unfolds in 3 predictable mistakes. First, you fill the silence. She creates space, and you rush to close it. More messages. Faster replies. Extra check-ins. What you're really saying is, I'm uncomfortable without your attention. Second, you try to reassure her. You offer emotional availability on demand. You let her know you're there for anything. Every word quietly communicates fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of the connection slipping away. Third, you overcompensate. You plan more, compliment more, give more. You turn the volume up, hoping effort will restore what distance removed. But attraction doesn't work that way. From a power dynamic perspective, the moment you increase effort in response to withdrawal, the balance shifts. She holds the frame, you chase it. And once that imbalance locks in, desire suffocates. A woman cannot miss a man who is constantly trying to close the gap. She can only miss what has space to disappear. Pulling back is not always a test. Sometimes it's clarity forming. Sometimes it's interest fading. And sometimes it's simply life. But panic turns every possibility into the same outcome. Loss of leverage, loss of attraction, loss of self-respect. Attraction never returns because you try harder. It returns when there's absence. That's the paradox most men resist, because it feels counterintuitive. You were taught that effort fixes problems, that persistence proves value, that if you just show up more, love will stabilize. But romantic attraction doesn't respond to effort. It responds to space. When you stop rewarding distance with increased attention, one of two things happens, and both outcomes work in your favor. If she's genuinely interested, she recalibrates. She notices the absence. The imbalance corrects itself. Her effort rises to meet yours. Consistency returns, not because you chased it, but because you gave it room to surface. If she doesn't come back, then the truth was already there. Your boundary didn't cause the loss. It revealed it faster. This is where men get stuck emotionally. They think, if I pull back, I'll lose her. What they don't see is that they were already losing themselves trying to keep her close. Never reward distance with effort. Effort given in response to withdrawal trains imbalance. It teaches her that she can reduce investment while you increase it. And once that lesson is learned, attraction doesn't recover. Absence does something effort never can. It restores polarity. It returns control to your side of the equation. It reminds her that access to you is not guaranteed. And if she chooses not to step forward when space is created, then you didn't lose a woman who wanted you. You stopped chasing an illusion that required you to abandon your grounding. That's the quiet power of this boundary. It doesn't manipulate outcomes, it clarifies them. You didn't lose her. You stopped chasing what was never fully yours. What you've just learned isn't a collection of dating tips. It's a system. 5 boundaries, 1 framework, 1 purpose, protecting your value before someone else decides what it's worth. These boundaries are not about controlling women. They're not about manipulation. And they're definitely not about turning cold or disconnected. They exist for one reason only: to keep you from losing yourself while trying to keep someone else. When you control financial access, you protect leverage. When you shut down disrespect early, you protect dignity. When you guard your time, you protect direction. When you pace emotional intimacy, you protect polarity. When you stop chasing withdrawal, you protect self-respect. Together, they form a filter. Women who are drawn to structure, strength, and self-control will feel safer with you. Women who were only comfortable when you were overgiving, over-available, and over-invested will quietly disappear. That's not loneliness, that's clarity. Boundaries don't make you harder to love. They make it possible for the right person to love you without you shrinking to earn it. They ensure that when a woman chooses you, she's choosing the man you actually are, not the version that sacrifices himself to be tolerated. And if there's one truth I want you to walk away with, it's this: you don't gain power by demanding more from women. You gain power by requiring more from yourself. If this resonated, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe. Stay here. This channel exists for men who are done being confused, drained, and second-guessing their worth. Like the video. Share it with the man who keeps giving too much and getting less. And leave a comment. Tell me which boundary hit you the hardest. This channel isn't here to comfort you. It's here to keep you from losing yourself. What if the woman you trust most isn't who she seems? What if her loyalty, her affection, even her respect is just a performance when you're around? Too many men confuse words for truth and attention for love, and the cost is brutal. Wasted time, broken trust, and years you can't get back. The harsh reality is that character doesn't reveal itself in romantic gestures or sweet words. It reveals itself when no one's watching and when she doesn't need you anymore. And here's the secret. There are only 2 silent tests that cut through all the noise. 2 hidden signals that expose who she really is beneath the surface. Once you learn them, you'll never mistake convenience for commitment again. Let's break down those two tests before you risk giving your heart to the wrong woman. As a psychologist and relationship coach, I've worked with countless men who gave years of their lives to women who looked perfect on the surface. But the truth came out when they least expected it. Don't let that be your story. Subscribe, like this video, and share your own experience in the comments. Have you ever trusted someone only to discover later it was just a performance? Because what I'm about to reveal will help you see past the act and recognize the real markers of character. Men don't get destroyed by obvious betrayal. They get softened by comfort. You've been trained to read love by the easy metrics: sweet words, affectionate gestures, and how smooth everything feels when life isn't throwing punches. That's why smart men still miss the truth. You're measuring the weather, not the climate. You're grading performance in ideal conditions and assuming that equals character. It doesn't. Here's the psychological trap. In comfort, anyone can perform. Attention is cheap when there's no friction. Affection is abundant when there's no cost. Even accountability looks noble when nothing is at stake. Those signals seduce you because they confirm what you want to believe. She's warm, we vibe, we're good. But warmth and vibe are states, not standards. And states lie. Impression management turns a lot of adults into part-time actors. We all curate. We all polish. She might not even be malicious. She's human. When there's an audience, we all tighten up our behavior. When the audience leaves, our defaults return. That's why the real read is never what she does when the moment is lovely. It's what she repeats when the moment is neutral. Comfort hides, but silence reveals. If you keep evaluating her by compliments, cuddles, and curated weekends, you'll overvalue chemistry and undervalue character. Chemistry tells you how good the time is. Character tells you how safe the future is. The men who get blindsided confuse relief with reliability. Relief feels like, finally, someone who gets me. Reliability sounds boring in comparison. Patterns, principles, consistency. But that's what carries you when life tilts. So what should you actually look at? Not debates, not dramatic tests, not trap questions. Look for behavior in the spaces with no scoreboard, no likes, no eyes, no immediate prize. When there's nothing to gain and no one to impress, people default to who they are. That's why I'm going to give you 2 silent tests in a moment. 2 places where her real baseline shows through without a speech, a selfie, or a performance. Before we go there, I need you to drop 2 habits that sabotage you. First, stop treating suspicion and discernment like the same thing. Suspicion is fear, looking for evidence. Discernment is wisdom, collecting data. You're not a detective, you're a witness. Second, stop arguing with words and start auditing patterns. Words are forecasts. Patterns are weather records. If her record contradicts her forecast, believe the record. Here's a reframe that will save you years. Character isn't a promise. It's a pattern under 2 conditions: no audience and no incentive. If she stays aligned when the spotlight is off and stays respectful when you're no longer a resource, you're not guessing anymore. You're seeing. I can already hear the pushback. Isn't this cold? Isn't love about trust? Yes, trust that has been earned by consistent evidence. I'm not asking you to police her. I'm asking you to protect you. You've paid for too many illusions with your peace. You don't need to test a good woman with games. You simply need to notice what's already true when no one is clapping and when nothing is owed. So the plan is simple. We'll anchor your attention on 2 quiet checkpoints and let reality do the talking. No drama, no traps, just clear lenses. If she's the real thing, these moments will confirm it and deepen your respect. If she isn't, they'll surface the mismatch early, before you invest the parts of your life you can't get back. Now let's move from theory to practice. The first silent test is where most men never look. How she handles freedom when no one is watching. That's where loyalty stops being an outfit and starts, or stops, being a code. When men hear the word freedom, most think it's a gift. But in relationships, freedom is the stage where masks fall. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Some women confuse freedom with permission. They treat unmonitored moments like an open bar for attention. The problem isn't that she has space. The problem is what she does with it. See, loyalty isn't a necklace she wears to dinner or a caption she posts under your picture. Loyalty is either stitched into her character or stapled onto her image, and the difference shows when no one is watching. Out in public, it's easy to look committed, smiling, affectionate, maybe even bragging about you to her friends. That's performance. But when the door closes, does she still live by the same standard? Or does she crack the window just wide enough for validation to slip in from another man? Let me give you a story, because abstract ideas don't hit as hard as lived moments. James is 43, divorced, finally dipping back into dating after years on his own. Through mutual friends, he meets a woman who checks all the boxes on paper, charming, affectionate, and vocal about how much she values him. In public, she beams when he's around. She holds his arm, laughs at his jokes, makes him feel like he's the center of her world. But James is observant. He notices subtle shifts whenever she's out with her girlfriends or traveling alone for work. Her phone gets tucked away faster. Conversations end abruptly if he walks into the room. Harmless? Maybe. But one night he sees a notification flash, just enough to read a line of a message from another man. Nothing explicit, nothing incriminating, just enough to make him question why it was hidden. When he casually asks about her weekend, she dodges, changes topics, and paints the picture of a perfect night out. That's when James realizes something critical. Her loyalty glows in the spotlight but flickers in the dark. Around him, she's polished. Away from him, there are cracks. She isn't betraying him outright, but she's entertaining little doors she wouldn't want him to see. And that's the point. True loyalty doesn't depend on whether you'll find out. It depends on whether she values the bond as sacred, even when it would be easy to bend the rules. Now let's zoom out. James's situation isn't rare. Most men never check the difference between public loyalty and private loyalty because they're too busy enjoying the show. They take the outfit at face value and never ask if there's a code beneath it. But here's the raw test. Does she act the same when the world isn't clapping? If she only performs loyalty when it benefits her image, that's not loyalty, it's branding. This doesn't mean you stalk, spy, or grill her with suspicion. That's insecurity, not wisdom. What it does mean is paying attention to her baseline. How does she handle freedom? Does she treat commitment as a cage she can escape when unsupervised, or as a principle she honors regardless of audience? One answer gives you stability, the other gives you chaos delayed. Men, you need to understand. Freedom doesn't create betrayal. It only exposes it. If betrayal is in her, freedom is the stage where it walks out. If integrity is in her, freedom becomes proof. It's that simple. Don't complicate it. Here's the positive takeaway. The kind of woman worth building with doesn't see commitment as chains. She sees it as alignment with her own values. Whether you're in the room or 1,000 miles away, her behavior matches her words. You don't have to second guess. You don't have to chase reassurance. Her consistency is the reassurance. James walked away, not in anger, but in clarity. And that clarity saved him from years of confusion. You owe yourself the same standard. Observe her freedom, not with paranoia, but with open eyes. Because if she protects what's sacred when no one's watching, you've got something rare. If not, you've got a warning. Let's push deeper into the first test, because spotting freedom isn't just about catching slips. It's about understanding the difference between an outfit and a code. I call it loyalty on the outside versus loyalty on the inside. And if you don't learn to distinguish the two, You'll confuse performance for principle. Here's what I mean. Loyalty as an outfit is presentation. She puts it on when it's convenient, when friends are watching, when family is around, when you're close enough to notice. She shows the right moves, affectionate words, loyal signals, maybe even public declarations. It looks good, it feels good, but it's conditional. The moment there's no audience, the outfit comes off. Her behavior shifts because the purpose of the loyalty was never about you. It was about how she appeared. Now, loyalty as a code is different. A code is internal. It's not about performance. It's about principle. She doesn't wear loyalty. She lives it. She doesn't need someone clapping to keep her consistent. Her integrity isn't determined by circumstances. It's anchored in values. And that's what makes her rare. Because most people, men and women, don't operate from a code. They operate from context. They adjust their behavior to the room instead of holding the room to their standard. Think of it like this. An outfit comes off when the crowd leaves. A code stays on even in the dark. And that's why it matters for you. A man who trusts the outfit will always be surprised later. A man who waits for the code will be secure. Psychology has a name for this. Impression management. It's the tendency to present the best version of ourselves when we know eyes are on us. That's not evil. It's human. But the problem is when impression management replaces authenticity. If her loyalty is an act designed to impress, it will always fade in private. If it's rooted in her values, it won't matter whether she's praised or unseen. She'll treat the bond as sacred because she is sacred, not because someone is grading her. So how do you, as a man, test this without falling into paranoia? You don't have to interrogate. You don't have to stalk. You simply observe consistency. Does she shift depending on who's watching? Does her tone change in front of friends versus when you're alone? Are her boundaries stable, whether you're in the room or not? Over time, consistency tells you everything words can't. Here's the kicker. A woman who lives by a code doesn't fear being caught. She's not performing. She's aligned. And when you find that kind of alignment, you stop wondering. You stop overanalyzing texts, scrolling for clues, or seeking reassurance. Her life reassures you. That's the kind of peace men rarely talk about, but deeply crave. Don't settle for the outfit. Outfits fade. Outfits can be borrowed. Outfits can be styled to impress. A code is permanent. A code is chosen. A code is proven by repetition, not by applause. And that's why I'll leave you with this line. Integrity is what you do when the door is closed. If she's solid there, she'll be solid anywhere. If she's not, no amount of public loyalty will protect you. There's a second silent test that most men completely overlook. It doesn't show up when you're her provider, her rock, her emotional anchor. It shows up the moment she realizes she doesn't need you anymore. That's when the mask either stays on because it's who she is, or it falls off because the role has been fulfilled. Here's why this test matters. Some women's kindness is tied to benefit. Their patience, their affection, even their respect is fueled by what they're receiving. As long as you're helping her, supporting her, filling gaps in her life, she treats you with warmth. But once she finds her footing, once she's stable financially, emotionally, or socially, the temperature changes. You're no longer essential. And how she handles that transition tells you everything. Let me show you with a story. Michael is 51. After years of being single, he starts dating a woman who, at first, seems deeply appreciative. She leans on him emotionally, calls him after work to decompress, looks to him for reassurance. She also benefits from his stability. He covers dinners, helps her navigate tough decisions, and becomes a steady presence in her life. Michael feels valued, maybe even needed, and that feels good. For a man his age, stepping back into dating, being needed feels like proof of purpose. But then things shift. As months go by, she lands a new job, reconnects with her social circle, and builds a stronger financial base. With her independence growing, Michael notices something. Her tone changes. She cancels plans more often. Conversations feel rushed. When he expresses a need or boundary, she sighs, acts inconvenienced, or even gets irritated. The same man who once felt like her anchor now feels like background noise. Michael doesn't explode. He pays attention. He realizes her respect was tied to her need. When she needed him, she was kind. When she didn't, she was careless. That realization hit harder than any breakup line because it showed him the truth. Her affection was conditional. It wasn't love, it was convenience. This is where most men struggle. They hold on, hoping the warmth returns, bargaining with themselves. Maybe she's just stressed, maybe I'm overthinking. But denial doesn't change patterns. What Michael learned, painfully but clearly, is that the way a woman treats you when she no longer needs you is the sharpest mirror of her soul. It strips away incentives, reveals priorities, and shows you whether she valued you or simply the role you played. Now, don't mistake this test as doom. There are women who pass it beautifully. They don't rewrite history just because their circumstances change. They don't turn cold because they've outgrown dependence. Instead, they stay consistent. They may not need you, but they still respect you. They still acknowledge what you've built together. They treat your presence as a choice, not as a burden. That's grace. That's character. And when you meet a woman like that, you've found someone who loves from value, not from necessity. So here's the warning and the wisdom. Watch the transition. Notice how she acts when the dependency is gone. If she discards kindness once she doesn't need your resources, you've just seen her truest form. If she maintains respect even in independence, you've just seen something rare. Don't confuse temporary gratitude with permanent character. Gratitude fades. Character doesn't. Men, you need to ask yourself, are you with someone who values your essence or your utility? The answer is in the silence after her needs are met. You don't have to test it artificially. Life will do it for you. Just be wise enough to notice when it happens. I'll leave you with this line. The way she treats you when you're no longer necessary. That's the sharpest mirror of her soul. Look into it, because that reflection tells you more about your future than any sweet word or romantic gesture ever could. Let's tie everything together. After watching how she handles freedom and how she treats you when she no longer needs you, there's a final layer of clarity, the difference between love and convenience. This is where most men get burned, not because they didn't see the signs, but because they misread them. Love, at its core, doesn't change when the benefits change. If a woman respects you, she respects you whether you're paying the bill or not. If she honors you whether you're the safety net or simply her partner. Love sustains itself when external incentives fade. It doesn't weaken when the perks disappear. That's what makes it love. Convenience, on the other hand, is transactional. It thrives when you're useful. It thrives when you're filling roles, provider, therapist, rescuer. But once those roles are no longer required, convenience dries up. The woman who loved you for convenience doesn't mistreat you out of cruelty. She simply has no use for the dynamic anymore. And that's what hurts most men, realizing they weren't loved for who they are, but for the benefits attached. Here's the good news. You can spot this difference without running experiments or playing games. Life naturally gives you tests. All you have to do is pay attention. When there's nothing to gain, does she still show respect? When you're not in a position to solve her problem, does she still treat you with warmth? When the spotlight isn't on, does her attitude toward you remain consistent? Those are the checkpoints. You don't need drama. You don't need suspicion. You just need observation. This is where discernment separates men who suffer endlessly from men who protect their peace. You don't have to panic when you see affection fade under convenience. You don't have to beg for love that was never real. You simply have to tell the truth. This wasn't love. It was a transaction. And then you step away with clarity, not confusion. Let me make this practical. Stop rewarding surface-level loyalty. Stop mistaking kindness in public for commitment in private. Stop assuming gratitude equals devotion. Gratitude is temporary. Values are permanent. If you want lasting respect, you need to align with someone who lives by values, not someone who chases benefits. Here's the punchline I want you to burn into your memory. Benefits can buy affection, but only values sustain respect. And respect is the oxygen of a relationship. Without it, the bond suffocates, no matter how much chemistry or history you share. So the real question isn't, does she love me now? The real question is, will she still honor me when there's nothing to gain? If the answer is yes, you've found a woman whose character is deeper than circumstance. If the answer is no, you've just saved yourself years of wasted time. Either way, you win, because clarity is a victory. When you strip away the noise, the selfies, the words, and the weekend highs, it all comes down to two silent tests. How she handles freedom when no one is watching, and how she treats you when she doesn't need you anymore. Those are the moments that reveal her true character, not the curated ones, not the rehearsed ones. Because think about it, anyone can act loyal when eyes are on them. Anyone can play affectionate when they're leaning on you. But real loyalty shows when there's no reward, no spotlight, no incentive. That's when you discover if you've been loved or leveraged, valued or used. This isn't about living in suspicion. It's about living with wisdom. Suspicion makes you paranoid. Wisdom makes you prepared. The difference is subtle but life-saving. A suspicious man chases shadows. A wise man simply observes patterns and adjusts his investment accordingly. And that's what you owe yourself. Investment in clarity, not in illusion. If you're with a woman who passes both tests, treat that as the rare gift it is. A woman who guards the bond even in silence, who honors you even in independence, that's not common. That's gold. Don't take it for granted. Because in a world of temporary performances, finding consistency is the prize. And if she fails these tests, don't waste your life negotiating with red flags. Don't plead with someone's character to change. Clarity is painful, but it's merciful. It frees you to stop paying for loyalty that was only staged and start building with someone who lives by values. Men, your peace depends on who you allow close. Protect it like your future depends on it, because it does. If this gave you clarity, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe, share this with a friend, and drop a comment about what resonated most. Awareness is your shield. Wisdom is your weapon. Use both, and you'll never look at love the same way again. Every man thinks he's safe until he finds out he wasn't. She told you what you wanted to hear. She played the role perfectly, and because you were blinded by attraction, you missed the truth that was staring you in the face. Loyalty isn't about what she says, it's about what she shows. Ignore that reality, and you'll join the long list of men who thought their situation was different. I don't want that for you. Stay with me, because I'm going to reveal 10 signs she'll never be a loyal woman. Miss even one, and you could lose years of your life to the wrong person. As a psychologist and relationship coach, I've spent years studying how women reveal their loyalty, or their lack of it, without even realizing. That's why I want you to subscribe right now, so you don't miss the insights that could save you years of wasted time. And I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been blindsided by a partner you thought was loyal? Share it in the comments because your story could help another man wake up. Now, let's get into the first sign, the most overlooked behavior that tells you if she's truly loyal, or if she's a ticking time bomb. Number 1. She dresses like she's advertising herself. Let me be clear. There's a difference between style and strategy. Not every woman who dresses attractively is unfaithful. Some do it for fashion, self-expression, or simply because it makes them feel good. But a woman who constantly steps out in outfits that scream for attention isn't expressing creativity. She's broadcasting availability. Short skirts, deep cleavage, clothes so tight you can see her breakfast. This isn't fashion, it's marketing. And who is she marketing to? Not you, my friend. You already bought the product. That display is for every other man with a wandering eye. Now, she'll tell you the classic line. I dress for myself. That's the biggest lie men fall for. Nobody spends hours on hair, makeup, squeezing into uncomfortable shoes that tear their feet apart just to feel pretty. It's about supply and demand. Every glance from a stranger is a dopamine hit, a small rush that says, I still have options. And if she constantly needs that validation, your attention will never be enough. Here's the brutal truth. A woman who cannot survive without being seen by dozens of men will eventually seek more than just looks. When one source of attention runs dry, she'll need backups. You'll find yourself competing not with another man, but with the entire audience she's trying to captivate. And let me tell you, that is a competition you will never win. A loyal woman doesn't need a spotlight. She doesn't dress to prove her worth to strangers. She already knows who she belongs to, and she shows it by reserving her presence for you, not for the crowd. Number 2, her social media has become a stage. Look closely at her online world. If her Instagram looks less like a photo album and more like an audition tape, you're not in a relationship. You're watching a performance. Bikini shots, gym selfies cropped just right, endless stories designed to provoke thirsty comments. This isn't about memories. It's about building an audience. And make no mistake, an audience is never loyal to one fan. You'll hear the excuses. I just like sharing my life. Or, it's for my fitness journey. Don't get fooled. When every post is designed to highlight her body, when every angle screams, look at me, the purpose isn't documentation, it's marketing, just like we talked about before. And what comes with marketing? Leads, prospects, options. Here's the cold equation. When a woman consistently puts herself on display for public approval, she's essentially running an open competition. Today, you might be the winner, but tomorrow, someone else will place a better bid. That's not insecurity talking. That's simple math. Exposure plus attention eventually equals temptation. And pay attention to how she interacts with her followers. Responding with heart emojis, playful comments, inside jokes with men you've never met. Those aren't harmless. That's fuel. She's keeping the engine running with dozens of invisible suitors lined up behind the curtain. A loyal woman doesn't need a digital fan club. She doesn't need to broadcast her body for validation. She invests her energy into the relationship, not into strangers' news feeds. If her phone looks like a stage, then you're not her partner. You're just her current subscriber. Number 3. Her wild past never really disappears. Men love to believe they're the exception. You meet a woman who used to be out every weekend, closing down clubs, living for the thrill, and she tells you, that was the old me. I've grown up now. And you want to believe her. You want to think you're the reason she settled down. But let me tell you something most men don't want to hear. The party girl never dies. She only hibernates. Behavior creates wiring. The brain doesn't just forget years of chasing adrenaline, attention, and novelty. That thrill becomes part of her programming. It's like carving grooves into stone. Once they're there, they don't disappear. You can paint over it with routine, marriage, even children. But the moment stress hits, the paint thins, and the old patterns bleed through. Watch carefully. When life gets boring, when responsibilities pile up, when routine sets in, what does she crave? Suddenly, she needs a girls' night. Suddenly, she's reconnecting with old party friends. Suddenly, she's talking about how she misses feeling young. That's not nostalgia. That's a relapse waiting to happen. Here's the truth most men ignore. You don't reform a thrill seeker with stability. You only delay the inevitable. And who represents the ultimate routine more than a long-term partner? You. Which means eventually she'll look for that missing spark outside of you. A loyal woman doesn't need the chaos of her past to feel alive. But if her history is full of chasing excitement, understand this. It isn't history. It's a sleeping pattern waiting to wake up. And when it does, you'll realize she was never really finished with that life. She was just on intermission. Number 4. She has more male friends than female friends. On the surface, it might look harmless. She says, "I just get along better with guys." And you nod, wanting to believe it. But deep down, you know something doesn't add up. Women understand women. If she can't maintain close female friendships, but somehow has a lineup of male companions, that's not coincidence, that's strategy. Here's the psychology. Men don't orbit around women for no reason. They're not there for long conversations about her favorite books. They're there because they're waiting for an opening. Every just friend is a potential replacement, a backup plan, an escape hatch she keeps warm in case things with you go cold. And she knows it, she enjoys it, she cultivates it. Notice the pattern. Her male friends comment on every photo, text her late at night, invite her places you're not included. That isn't friendship. That's a revolving door of suitors waiting for their turn. And by keeping those connections alive, she's essentially running what I call a loyalty prevention program. The truth is simple. Loyal women understand boundaries. They know that when you're in a committed relationship, most of those opposite-sex friendships fade away or transition into friendships you share as a couple. What they don't do is maintain a private roster of men cheering from the sidelines. If she has more male friends than female ones, you're not in a safe position. You're in a waiting room. And the men sitting around her aren't friends. They're candidates. Number 5. Every ex was the villain. Listen carefully to how she talks about her past relationships. If every single story ends the same way, he was abusive, he was a narcissist, he was the problem. You're not hearing her history, you're hearing her excuse for the future. Here's the psychology. Someone who refuses to take responsibility for failure never learns from it. And if she hasn't learned, she will repeat the same pattern. Only this time, you're the one cast in the role of the bad guy. It's already written into her script. When she cheats, when she disrespects you, when she moves on, it won't be her fault. It will be yours. She'll rewrite the story until you're the one who caused her pain, the one who didn't love her enough, the one who held her back. Sure, it's possible for someone to have 1 or 2 rough relationships. But when every ex is painted as a monster, the common denominator isn't the men, it's her. That's not bad luck. That's a refusal to face her own behavior. And here's what most men don't see. By rescuing a woman who always plays the victim, you're signing up to become her next villain. She doesn't need healing. She needs accountability. And if she hasn't taken it yet, she won't start with you. A loyal woman doesn't rewrite history to protect her ego. She owns her part, even when it hurts. But the eternal victim? She's already rehearsing the speech where you're the next name on her list of villains. Number 6. She craves drama and fears peace. A healthy relationship should feel calm, steady, even boring at times. But for some women, calm feels like death. They grew up in chaos, they got addicted to emotional roller coasters, and now their nervous system doesn't know how to survive without constant spikes of intensity. To them, peace isn't safety, it's emptiness. Watch her closely. When things are good between you two, does she suddenly pick fights over nothing? Does she create problems where none exist? Does she stir up tension just to feel alive? That's not passion. It's dysfunction. And for women wired this way, cheating isn't about your failures. It's about creating another high. Sneaking around, the danger of being caught, the thrill of the forbidden. This is all just fuel for their addiction to chaos. Here's the painful truth. The more stable you are, the more restless she becomes. You can give her love, money, security, and commitment. But if she's addicted to drama, your very stability will suffocate her. She'll look outside the relationship, not because she needs something you lack, but because she needs intensity you can't and shouldn't provide. A loyal woman knows how to appreciate peace. She can enjoy a quiet Sunday, a simple evening, a week without fireworks. But the drama addict, she'll destroy peace every time, and when the usual fights aren't enough anymore, she'll escalate. Cheating isn't a betrayal in her mind. It's just the next episode in her never-ending show. Number 7. She doesn't respect small boundaries. Pay attention to the little things. A woman who brushes off your simplest requests is giving you a preview of how she'll handle the bigger ones. If she checks your phone but refuses to let you touch hers, if she flirts with other men but flips out when you talk to women, if she makes rules for you that don't apply to her, that's not equality, that's entitlement. Boundaries are like muscles. If someone can't lift the light weights, they won't be able to handle the heavy ones. If she can't respect "don't text your ex," then don't expect her to respect "don't betray this relationship." It's the same principle, just a different level of resistance. Watch how she reacts when you set even the smallest boundary. Does she respect it? Does she test it? Does she mock it? Or worse, does she flip it back on you and accuse you of being controlling? That reaction tells you everything. Because a loyal woman doesn't fight boundaries. She understands they're the guardrails that keep a relationship safe. The mistake most men make is ignoring these early signs, thinking it's just a small issue. But those small issues are practice runs for faithfulness. A woman who dismisses them is already showing you that rules don't apply to her. Here's the truth. If she can't pass the small tests, she will fail the big one. And the price you'll pay isn't a minor inconvenience. It's your trust, your peace, and eventually your relationship. Number 8. She moves too fast in love. It feels flattering at first. She tells you she loves you after just a few weeks. She wants to move in right away. She acts like you've been together for years when you've barely started. Most men mistake this intensity for passion. They think, she must really see something special in me. But here's the truth. She doesn't love you. She loves the idea of being in love. This behavior isn't romance, it's instability. Women who attach instantly also detach instantly. They're not choosing you after careful thought. They're grabbing onto whoever is available. That's not loyalty. That's fear of being alone. And fear-driven attachment always comes with overlap. She doesn't leave one man until she has another lined up, which means while she's with you, she's already scanning for the next lily pad to jump to. Here's what most men miss. If she fell for you overnight, she'll fall for someone else just as quickly. You're not unique, you're interchangeable. You're not the exception, you're just the current host for her need to avoid solitude. A loyal woman takes her time. She builds slowly, with intention. She doesn't confuse infatuation with commitment. But the instant girlfriend? She's like a firework, blazing bright at the start, gone in seconds. And when that flame dies, she won't stay to rebuild. She'll already be moving on to her next spark. Number 9. She constantly compares you to other men. It starts small. She mentions her ex was taller. She points out her friend's husband makes more money. She jokes about how some actor has better abs. At first, you brush it off. It sounds harmless. But understand what's really happening. Those comments aren't observations, they're measurements. She's keeping a mental scorecard, and you're in a competition you never agreed to enter. Here's the psychology. When someone truly chooses you, the comparison ends. You're not perfect, but you're hers. That's loyalty. But a woman who constantly compares is shopping. She's evaluating. She's keeping her options open under the disguise of casual remarks. And today you might be winning, but the game never stops. Watch how this escalates. At first, it's subtle. Jake's girlfriend is so lucky he cooks for her. Then it becomes direct. Why can't you be more like that? And eventually, it turns into justification. Marcus appreciates me more than you do. What she doesn't tell you is that Marcus is already the man she's emotionally investing in. The danger here isn't just jealousy, it's erosion. Comparison eats away at gratitude. If she's always scanning the horizon for someone better, she will never fully value what's in front of her. A loyal woman doesn't treat her relationship like a marketplace. She doesn't weigh you against every man she meets. She chooses once and for all. But the comparison queen? She never stops choosing, and one day she'll choose herself right out of your life. Number 10. She keeps parts of her life hidden from you. There's a difference between privacy and secrecy. Privacy is normal. We all deserve our own space. But secrecy is deliberate. It's compartmentalization. And when a woman builds walls between you and entire sections of her life, you're not her partner. You're just a guest in one of her many worlds. Pay attention to the signs. Her phone is always face down, locked with codes you don't know. She has social media accounts you've never seen. She talks about friends you've never met. She disappears into work or girls' nights that somehow never include you. This isn't independence. It's insulation. She's constructing multiple versions of herself, and you only have access to the one she allows. Here's the reality. Loyal women are open books, not because they have to be, but because they have nothing to hide. If her phone dies, she can hand you hers without thinking. Her friends know you. Her online life includes you. Her storylines match up no matter who's listening. But the secret keeper lives a double life. And double lives always collapse, usually on top of the man who trusted her. She'll frame it as, I just need my privacy, but don't be fooled. Those compartments aren't about healthy space. They're about undisclosed activity. If she's separating her life into locked boxes, ask yourself why. Because the truth is, when loyalty exists, integration follows naturally. And when secrecy rules, betrayal is only a matter of time. You've just heard the 10 clearest signs that a woman will never be loyal. If you recognized more than one of them in the woman you're with, don't brush it off. That's not coincidence. That's a pattern. And patterns don't lie. Here's the part most men hate to face. You cannot transform disloyalty into loyalty. Love doesn't reform it. Commitment doesn't fix it. Sacrifice doesn't heal it. Trying to build loyalty in a woman who lacks it is like